Welcome back to the FlatsClass YouTube channel. Captain CA here. I did finally get home last evening from Louisiana a little bit after 10 o'clock at night. It was a long ride home, lots of rain, nothing to do with the hurricane because this video is part 2 of a series of videos that we're doing here getting ready for the arrival of Hurricane Idalia. Now, these aren't the type of videos I enjoy doing, but I figured, hey, this is an opportunity maybe to teach some of you that are new to the state and new to this channel what happens during one of these storms. And this is going to be a very close call. Some updates in the forecast. Well, my property went from being inside the cone to right on the edge of it. Does that make me feel more comfortable? No, it does not make me feel any more comfortable. The reason for that is if you look behind me, you'll see all these pine trees that I have on my property. All of them could fall on the house back there. So I'm not super comfortable with what's going on. I am grateful that the forecasted track may have moved 20 to 30 miles a little further west by the time it makes it up to Citrus County, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not enough. Crystal River will likely still have some serious flood issues, and even though I live up here on a pine ridge, you can see some of these bent trees behind me. That was from Hurricane Irma. So I'm still concerned we're going to have 5 to 6 inches of rain. There'll be isolated severe storms that could have the potential of tornadoes in them. And instead of me enduring constant winds of 50 to maybe possibly 60 miles an hour, now that we're going to probably be maybe as much as 75 miles from the eye wall, we'll probably drop down significantly, maybe to 35, 40 mile an hour winds, which that is a lot more doable for me. What can I expect? Well, one thing I can expect is I'm going to have to put away an awful lot of things. Now, my wife tried to get some of the stuff up, but I've got to go clean the gutters out on the property there on the house, make sure, because that roof sheds a ton of water, and there's lots of little loose items that you got to get out of your yard. I'm going to have some more tips coming right back. Let me just get started going because these dogs are running around here. You coming? Let's go. We got lots of work to do. Come on. Even though it looks pretty nice today, we're less than 24 hours away, well, from Idalia arriving. And when you look at the radar loop and the infrared, she's churning. She's a huge storm. She's 85 miles an hour, and one wobble right or one wobble left changes everything that I'm doing. So it's all about preparation. It's all about being ready for anything that might happen. If you do that, well, you'll be able to at least sleep, the night before the storm gets here. So we're looking at it being here probably, right off our coast in the wee hours of the morning, maybe 4 or 5 a.m. Starting to really feel the big effects with storm surge and whatnot, which won't bother me up here on the hill, but it'll bother my neighbors and my friends. But the wind will really be ramping from about that time through about midday tomorrow. So we'll see how it goes. All right, we're gonna begin prep. And it's a little bit different when you live kind of out in the woods on a bigger piece of property. It's not like living on the coast where you're boarding up windows and battening down doors. Don't really have that because we live in a pretty wooded area, and in this case my property is actually down in kind of a holler, if you will. It's kind of a low spot that goes back uphill, even though I'm still 115 feet at one end of the property and probably 130 at the other, probably average around 120. I'm more worried about trimming trees that are touching the building, cleaning gutters out, taking things down, putting them away, securing stuff that could blow around that might take out a window. But we have storm windows, and I'm not really concerned with that. That would be like direct hit. We get 120 mile an hour winds, but by the time they got in here, they would be knocked down. So most of my stuff today is going to be just prepping the property, the boats, getting supplies together, things like that, that will make the next 2 to 3 days a heck of a lot more comfortable. So let's get started. Gotta clean these gutters out before the storm gets here, and then maybe even trim some of these branches away from the gutter and the side of the fascia of the house here. So that's what I got to work on today. Mission accomplished. Signs that you have hanging up on buildings or just in places where they can blow away, bird feeders, you name it. You have to trim up everything. You have to put everything away. Like I said before, if they don't damage your own property, well, they'll be damaging somebody else's, and it's the right thing to do. So it's a lot of prep work, but we're gonna get it done. Flag posts have to be addressed. Also, just common sense stuff like ornaments on the side of the buildings, lawn gear. You've also got to consider, even I've got garbage cans that are behind the wall here. They've got to go. Stuff around my fire pit, stuff around the shooting range. That umbrella is going to have to go down. These are just common sense things that you have to do when you own a piece of property, because they all become projectiles that might break a window. Now, you have to do all of this whether you're staying or evacuating. I'm staying because I'm not in a flood zone. By far and away, I'm not. I'm a good 8 or 9 miles in, maybe even 10, and I live about 125 feet above sea level. But I will tell you this, I do still have to worry about the wind, and that's why I'm taking all of this stuff down, putting it away where it belongs. If you lived in a flood zone, or you do live as the storm approaches, you still have to do all these same measures. Secure your home, get the necessary paperwork, photos, whatever you think you need out of your safe, and then evacuate. And then when you come back, you'll have a lot less things going on. So it's just smart to do that. Now, the other things that I'm going to do, since I'm staying, is I've got to have supplies. We're going to talk about that next. All right, here's some supplies that you might not think about until, well, after you can't have them. One is, if you need prescription medication and you know a storm is coming, make sure a day or so before the storm that you secure that at your local pharmacy, because you may not be able to get that needed medication in enough time before you get things up and running again, where you can get out of your zone to the pharmacy or the pharmacy reopens. So medication is a big one. Other things that I can think of off the top of my head that you might want to consider doing just prior to the storm, if you're expecting power outages, is make sure you charge all of your electronics, every one of them. Make sure they're fully charged so that at least you have the opportunity, to keep in touch with the weather. Also, make sure you change the batteries out in everything, and then have more batteries as needed to replace them. You're going to need to do that. I don't know why I think like this, but it's probably because I've lived 50 plus years here in the state of Florida, and, well, I'm an outdoorsman. And the rule of all outdoorsmen is, if you better have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And that's a code that we all live by out here. So what supplies would you need? Bottled water, number one. You need to have a couple of cases on hand. Now, you should be drinking water anyway, so it's not like you're throwing money away. So make sure you have plenty of bottled water on hand for a couple of days until infrastructure gets back up and running during these storms. For me, it's not a big deal because I've got a whole house generator over there, so I'm not going to have to store a lot of gasoline. But I did get 2 5-gallon jerry cans full of gas, just so that I would have them for my wife's car. Her car is topped off. You heard, if you watched the first video, you saw where I topped off my my tow vehicle there with diesel, and it holds 36 gallons of diesel. So, you know, I've got about 500 plus miles of range if we had to go somewhere, something really bad happened. But it's thinking about everything you might need. Some people might want to make sure they have plenty of C-cell and D-cell and AA batteries and things like that for electronics and radios and whatnot. Lots of canned food. That's a big deal in case you can't cook. Many of my neighbors around here have repumped up all their propane cylinders because they realize that if the power goes out, they're still going to have to cook, so they can still cook on their grills. And because once all this ends, there's going to be a big cleanup, and sometimes it takes the utility companies a few days to get back out and get the service back on. So the more things you do to make life comfortable, the better off you're going to be. Now, I'm not going to have to worry about it, like I said, because I've got the big generator there, but many folks try to keep their deep freezes where they're not open them. They can keep a lot of stuff cold in there, especially bagged ice. But overall, I think we've got a good plan here to stay. And even though I expect winds that could be, you know, pretty crazy, and I will report on that in the next video as the storm approaches, I think I'm doing okay. Gutters are cleaned out, flags are down. I'm doing pretty good here. I'll probably in another 2 or 3 hours, I'll have just about everything put away. And then it's just monitoring the weather. And I'm probably gonna put a lot of tools in the back of my truck there, because I got a feeling I'm gonna have some friends that are gonna need help cleaning up when it's all done. I wanna be able to just, you know, fill a Yeti cooler full of beverages and head over there and help out. So let me get a few more things done, and then tomorrow or tonight as the storm approaches, I'll have more for you.